Welcome to the Kings Beat Podcast, a Blue Wire podcast. I am James Ham, Kings Insider for ESPN 1320 and the Kings Beat. Joining me today, KCRA 3's Sean Cunningham. What's going on, Sean?
I liked the little harmony, the little intonation you did with your voice there. That was kind of cool.
Oh, there we go. And of course, we also have Brenden Nunes from the Kings Pulse podcast. Brenden, how are you?
Hello. I am doing well. Sean looks a little curious about something.
Yeah, what podcast? Is it back? It's back, right?
It is. It is. King's Pulse is back. Chris Watkins and I.
It's never left. What are you talking about?
Yeah.
I don't even know what you're
Yeah.
talking about. That's how we
always been
introduce
here the
him
whole time.
every week.
It's true. Sean just doesn't listen.
But like it was dormant for a while, yeah?
Yeah, no comment. No comment. Anyways, you were asking about my podcast candle. I have a new setup today.
Oh, were we?
Yeah, you were. I don't know if I can really reach and grab it. Here. I've upgraded.
Oh no.
I know this is horrible. See, no, it doesn't even reach. All right, I have a light now
Great, cool story,
instead of
bro.
a
What is this?
candle, if you know what I'm talking about.
What do you
You have a
mean?
what?
Like you have a light in your candle so you don't have a candle, is what you're saying.
Faux candle.
What is that?
Right? Okay.
Oh,
So this is the new tech, guys. Old men here. I'm trying to
audio
educate
listener
you.
is really confused.
There
right
is
now,
a
but
there
that's
is
okay.
a light that your candle goes under essentially, and it
Okay.
burns it much slower. So now my candles will last forever because this OG podcast candle is almost out. As you know, you light a flame. This is like a sponsored segment all of a sudden.
So the
But I've
podcast.
upgraded.
So what does it do?
It's a light, like a light bulb that just warms up the candle, and then it so it doesn't burn.
Yeah. It
Why does it still have a wick?
Well, I didn't like buy the candle specifically for it. It's still just whatever candle.
Oh, you can use any candle.
Yeah,
Oh,
any candle.
interesting.
And it just burns it slower. Still get a little bit of the
Sean
smell,
looks
maybe not to the
perplexed.
same level.
So you
I
don't
just
light
blew
it.
Sean's mind. No,
You don't light it.
the heat from the light will
Okay.
slowly work in the same way here.
And you get to smell everything, just no smoke?
You do.
Really?
Yeah.
Okay,
And
now
the
I'm
candle
intrigued.
lasts way longer.
Oh.
Just saying.
Wow.
Okay.
Well, you learn something new every day from Brenden Nunes.
Yeah. So we
Sure
got
do.
California citron or whatever slowly burning over there.
And Sean has what, cold and prickly?
Yeah, I just went back to warm and welcome. So
See, same
yep.
thing.
it smells so good though. It's a good one. I didn't know that even existed. By the way, warm and welcome doesn't really give you an idea of what it smells like. I just noticed this. I'd never seen this before on the label. Because usually when I go candle shopping, not that you give a damn, but I go to each candle, I pop the top, I smell, and I put back. I don't know what it is. I don't need to read. And so this one says that vanilla, amber, and woods. I don't know what woods smells like, but woods, like plural.
Yeah, thank you for
woods.
clarifying.
Mm-hmm. It smells
Weird.
great, though.
Weird. Welcome into the Kings Beat podcast, where we talk about stupid things like candles for the first 5 minutes of every show.
And the Kings.
Well, I think a lot of people out there would rather hear our takes on candles at this point than what we are starting to know to be true about the Sacramento Kings. The Kings, of course, fell last night to the Chicago Bulls. That is their third loss in a row, and 4 out of the first 5 games of the season they have lost, and it's a bit of a problem. So again, welcome in Kings Insider Podcast. We're not Kings Insider Podcast.
No, we're not.
Wow, the Kings Beat Podcast. That one came out of nowhere. That's what it used to be called many years ago. But welcome into the Kings Beat Podcast. Join us on all of the places that you listen to podcasts. Jump on board with thekingsbeat.com, become a premium subscriber, all that stuff. Subscribe to the channel on YouTube, give us a thumbs up, all of that stuff. Let's dive into this thing very quickly. Ooh, I like that. That's a nice Kings Beat podcast sweatshirt that Brendan's wearing today.
Represent today.
There we go. Normally he doesn't represent. So
Well, not true.
Can I give Brenden a shout out?
Yeah.
Real quick. We met up earlier in the week, and
I don't know where this is going at all. This is weird.
He stayed through I think I just broke my own rule, by the way, but
You did.
I know. But he stayed through. We watched the marathon together of the World Series, and he very much wanted to go home. I said, "Don't you leave? You're not leaving."
You all hung out for the 18 innings?
We
did.
did. We did.
Yeah.
Other people left a lot earlier. Sean and I did not leave till that game was over. We even reached
Yeah.
a point where I also said for Sean to not tell anybody this, but I'll put myself on blast. I was ready for it to be over. I'm like, Mookie, please, like you're one of the few Dodgers I like. Let's do this, bro. Like, let's get this
And
over.
what did I say to you?
Sean instantly told me to shut my trap and that
In
I
so
should
many
not root
words.
for the Dodgers. And right after I regretted saying it. So quite a
Okay.
game though.
Was a heck of a
Incredible.
game. Yeah, I was watching. I literally fell asleep in the 18th and woke back up as they're celebrating, and I'm like, so I was watching it on my phone with an earpiece in, and so I backed up and I'm like, oh, all right. Well, it had to end some way.
Can you imagine being at that? First of all, I think the game would be incredible to be at, no matter who you weren't rooting for, even if you were weren't rooting for either one of them. But like, you couldn't have a drink after the seventh
Yeah.
inning. And fortunately, that wasn't a problem for either one of us. Where I looked at him at one point, I was like, "Hey, if this goes another inning, if they get out of this, I'm getting a drink." So, yeah, it was good.
There were a
Wild.
few innings of
Wild.
that. Yeah.
Yeah,
Much better than watching Sacramento Kings basketball. Let's just dive into
nice segue.
let's dive into yesterday's game. I think it's a
Ugh.
microcosm of most of the other games. But it's actually the one where all the wheels fall off the bus, and I think that it's an interesting situation that they're in right now, where they're really grasping at straws and trying to figure out like an identity, and that's not forming quickly. And I think they've been competitive. They weren't competitive in the second half against the Bulls, but overall, I think they have been extremely competitive throughout the first 5 games, even if it didn't amount to winning. But what we saw in the second half of the Bulls game, to be honest, was unacceptable. It was like a freeway going to the basket. Like nobody defended at all. They just stopped defending completely. And just watching the Bulls just go right to the rim and score just so many points in the paint in the third quarter that it was an embarrassment. And Doug Christie, following the game, he had some pretty harsh words for his team. And I think that that's where we have to have the jumping off point, because like, look, this isn't, like, certain things are acceptable on the court, but other things are not. And when you have your head coach say something like this, it seems sometimes we get a little bit bored with the monotony of doing things the right way and having success at it. I don't think I've ever heard a Kings coach call what was happening on the court his players getting bored and just not doing the same, not doing the basics. Where are we at with this, and where this season is heading, or where it's already at, or where it feels like it's at this point?
Well, that's a lot of questions. I mean, just taking Doug for what he said, I'll point out too, he's the guy that always wants to say the blame is on me, it's never on his players. And most of the time, I tend to roll my eyes at that, because if that's the case, who are you holding accountable? Now, granted, what goes on behind the scenes that we don't see often could be a completely different story. But I think that Doug is very much a player's coach. And I think this hurts him when he goes that route. And I think him deviating from that and saying what he said last night, I appreciated, because I think the fan base needed to hear that. I think it's been a theme from this team for, you could argue, a few years now, where they'll tend to, the game comes down to a few possessions and they wet the bed. They, whatever clever adjective or anecdote you want to use or anything like that. But the point of the matter is like, this team is having a difficult time with doing little things, the attention to detail, and they have to try to be something they're not. And they're trying to be something they're not, trying to defend at a high level, trying to be able to be physical and try to make up for lack of size, all these things that Doug wants them to be, all the while sharing the basketball. He's talked about so many of these different philosophies and pillars. Scott Perry has done it ad nauseum. Doug has his own that he expects from his team to be, and it's tough. They have to play small, and in order for this team to have success, they're trying to play small. What I would punch back with Doug with is some of the things Doug is harping on. I think do fly in the face of him as the head coach, because he's the one out there that sees these runs go entirely too long, doesn't see his team respond the right way. He's trying to save his timeouts. I get that, but he's oftentimes trying to let his team work itself out from some of these jams. You can do that in the early season. It's only 5 games, but you're seeing some pretty bad behavior popping its way up, and to me it's incumbent upon him to nip some of that in the bud. I also would say, James, you outlined it beautifully. I think they're doing a lot of really good things. I think they are punching above their weight. I think a lot of people um, look at a box score and go, well, they all played well, look at their scoring, and it just doesn't tell the picture. It's literally defense. It's literally playing with any kind of force that they don't have. And I shoot, I don't know what they can do from a rotational standpoint. I would argue that there's probably not anything they could do rotationally that lead to wins. I think that it's not all hope is lost, but it's certainly some things that they need to call out to the carpet and be able to respond just better. I do like some of the ways some of the things have been played, but defensively, force, all these things. And I think we get ourselves into a trap, which is you're not looking at it from a game to game standpoint. And you were looking at these early games against the likes of Phoenix and Utah and the Lakers without LeBron and Luka, and then Gabe Vincent gets hurt. You're looking at opportunities getting pissed away, and you look at what's on the horizon, which is a bunch of world killers. And that's when the Chicken Little sky is falling syndrome comes into play. I don't think that that's fair to do, because as you've seen, look at the way they played against OKC, granted without a couple of their key cogs, but I think that's the type of thing you can expect from as a fan, that you can expect from the Kings team, which is to play with force, to be able to be a high scoring team, to show some grit about them. Unfortunately, they weren't able to put it together for 4 quarters, and that has been the Achilles heel with this team.
Yeah.
Brenden?
I mean, I think a lot of it's well said. You can take positives from them being close in a lot of these games, and then also look and, hey, there's a closer on the roster in DeMar DeRozan, but he's not able to get it going in that 4th quarter because there's no spacing on this team. Like, I think the core of a lot of this is that they are trying to embrace an identity that their roster does not play to. This defensive intensity is leading to a crazy amount of fouls. Now, the Lakers game is going to be an outlier in its own regard. They actually did a pretty good job the next night against SGA. I think his first free throws came in the 3rd quarter of that game. But
two total free throws.
Yeah, they do turn teams over, and I think that's where the strength comes in, a little bit of the defensive physicality, but that comes with a lot of risks and guys getting to the basket extremely easily. They don't really have a backline defender of any sort on the roster at all. Maybe Dylan Cardwell, I guess, and that's probably why you've seen him get run so early in his career, but he's not checking that box. I don't know what they do well and consistently on a night-to-night basis at all, to be honest. The only thing I can name is that they have shot makers that can get to it when they need, but Dennis Schroeder, I think, has struggled so much this year because he's just not able to get into the paint. There's no spacing for him throughout the entire lineup. Like, there's constantly 3 non-shooters on the floor. Or if you want to talk about Russell Westbrook's corner 3, which for what it's worth, I do think is cash. But defenses are going to live with that. There's 3 guys between him, DeMar, Domas, when Devin comes in the game, Drew, that teams don't really care about shooting the ball. Dennis falls under that as well. And I think that congests everything in the half court. So they have to get turnovers. They have to get out in transition. And you need guys that aren't great shooters to knock down shots for you on a given night. They've actually shot the ball really well from deep for most of this season. And I don't even know that I expect that to stay at that level necessarily, even though they're not shooting very many of them. But Doug said after the first game, like 3 of the principles are to defend. And they are currently, I wouldn't say doing that very well, 16th in defensive rating, Basketball Reference. That might even be a little bit kind. He mentioned rebounding. They're 29th in rebounding. Domas is the only one that can get boards out there, quite literally, and Russell Westbrook, and share the ball. And they're 19th in assists. I think they have some nights, the first half against Chicago. Last night, they looked really good. The ball's swinging around. And then there's other moments where it gets frozen a little bit and they go back to their ISO ball because that's the strengths of the guys that they have on their roster. And so, again, my main thing is that I just don't think the identity and style that this team is attempting to play actually caters to its strengths that are pretty unidentifiable within itself.
Yeah, I'm with you 100%, Brendan, on almost every single bit of what you said. Same with you, Sean. Like, look, we knew that this was going to be a problem coming into the season. Like, you just kept adding 30% 3-point shooters. Like, I don't understand what the rationale is. And then, like, hey, I'll just call this out right away. Like, Doug McDermott hasn't stepped on the court, and you gave him a fully guaranteed deal. He's one of the few guys who can shoot the ball, and you don't trust him to put him out there. And so you're caught in this perpetual cycle of like isolation one-on-one basketball. All of them regress to who they are as players. And like, just to be totally honest, like that's who DeMar DeRozan is. It's who Russell Westbrook is. It's who Malik Monk is. It's who I'm missing one more. There's Dennis Schroeder is not a natural point guard, and he is the same thing. He's a guy who wants the ball in his hands and wants to go finish around the rim and do all that stuff. Like, this team is, even Zach LaVine, like these are straight up isolation bucket getters, and they're really good at it. And when you look at a box score and the box score tells you that everyone had a good game and they get clubbed, that's a problem. And it feels like every night I'm looking at the box score and it's like 30 points, 21 points, 18, 18, 15, and 10. You should win that game. You should win that game, but you don't win that game because you don't play any defense. And the problems that I see, like, Domas has said it a couple of times that he's not bought into the 94 feet thing, and that's not something he thinks is sustainable. Well, I totally agree. Like, this team they need to get back on defense. They're not good enough to go have somebody out there who might get beat and all of a sudden you're playing 5-on-4 basketball. They're just not good enough. And then on top of that, you need easy transition buckets to make this thing work. Well, that you can't get transition buckets if you can't rebound the effing ball. And when you go out there and you got a bunch of half-ass rebounders, some of the worst rebounders for their positions in the league. Dennis Schroeder is a horrific rebounder for his position. Zach LaVine is a bad rebounder. DeMar DeRozan, they're all bad rebounders for their positions. How are you supposed to do transition offense if the other team just keeps getting offensive rebounds and scoring second chance points on you? So, like, some of the things that they want to do, they cannot do because they do not have a roster to do it. And I know that there are people out there like, you gotta tailor your offense or your defense to the strengths of your team. What if you don't have any strengths as a team because all of your players do the same exact thing and none of them are good defenders? Like, and Sean, you're saying, wait, no, they're good isolation players. That's it.
Well, yeah, no, I'd push back on that. I think that's a little overreacting, but to your point, you have to play to your strengths, and there are strengths on this team. I agree with you. For example, you mentioned the picking up of 94 feet. Domantas Sabonis is absolutely right, because what do you witness when somebody's picking up 94 feet more times than not? Doug Christie has even called this out. The guy's playing patty cake. He's just walking with him. There's no force. You're not picking up your defender. You might be in tow with him, but you're not guarding. You're not trying to make a stop. You're not trying to, commit a steal or any defensive stop more.
You're trying to eat 3 or 4 seconds off the shot clock.
And they're literally just passing to a different guy that's not being guarded full court.
Right. So it's not effective. And I'm not saying throw the baby out with the bathwater. It's just, if you're going to do it, you have to do it with force. You can't do it as a shadow and just walk with the guy up the court. That to me is completely just inexcusable. And so that is something that we showed it reared its head in preseason. That has trickled over into the regular season. Now, if they can pick that up, and certainly I feel like maybe picking up the 94 feet, maybe that is you need to be a healthier team. You need someone like Keegan Murray back. Hell, you even need somebody like Nick Clifford back to be able to add some of the to do some of the things you'd like to do, because with those absences of two guys that defend above average, that puts such a pressure on the guys that you now rely on from a defensive standpoint with a bunch of bad defenders. And those, what do you see in the Lakers game? You guys, some of those guys get into foul trouble, Keon Ellis, and the like. So this team has a horrible habit of being able to. It's absolute textbook. It's a bad defensive team trying to play defense, and so what happens? You defend when you foul, or you foul when you defend. And so many of those calls, if you go back and look at them against Lakers, yes, there were a few bad ones, but by and large, it was pretty accurate. Like they kept fouling their opponent.
Yeah.
They, and especially the way, look, I think it makes maybe Kings fan, I don't know if it makes them feel any better, but Austin Reeves has been on an absolute tear. So it's not just against Sacramento, hitting game winners, still having big scoring nights, still being able to get to the free throw line. That's just his game. But you have to be able to defend without fouling, and they are incapable of doing that.
What are the strengths, Sean?
I think this team is a very good scoring team. I do, and I think when if they're able to somehow, well, that's what they have. They have scoring talent. They may not have shooting talent, but they have scoring.
I'm gonna correct you though, because you said they're a really good scoring team. I don't think they're a good scoring team. They're a really good group of individual scorers, and they have yet to figure out how to score as a team. Because like what we've seen the last two games, last night they had 20 assists in the first half, and they have 7 in the second half. They like their rudimentary idea is as soon as things get tough, they drop in the ISO ball and they don't help each other. It's just one-on-one trash again and again. The game before, when they lost to OKC, 14 assists in the first half, 7 in the second half. Again, as soon as the other team goes in the locker room and makes one adjustment, this team falls apart and it's dribble, and then chuck. And it's really, really, so that's the only thing I would say. Like, Sean, you're right. They have a ton of scores. And that's what I meant when I said, like Zach LaVine is putting up 30 points every night. DeMar DeRozan's at 19. Like, you're getting 18 out of 2 players every single night outside of those 2 guys. You are, whether it's Monk or whether it's Schroeder or it's Domas, you're getting that. But you're also getting 2 guys at 15, 1 at 10. Like, you have so much scores, but they're all individual scores. And that's not a scoring team. That's a scoring group of basketball players. It's a 2K roster.
Yeah, it is. And that's 100% right. They are a 2K roster. To your point, though, it's not their fault that the team is shaped and constructed the way that it is. So to say what they're good at, what this collective group is good at, and they're really good in the half court offense. Like that's what they're not a run and gun type team. Like, no, I'm saying in comparison to, like, you're not going to see them get out in transition.
Yeah, I guess.
These are a bunch of old heads who are not going to get out in transition and run, despite what they'd like to play with pace. They're not going to be that team. They're just incapable of being that team.
I totally agree.
How are they going to unlock that? They're not. I mean, shit. When De'Aaron Fox was here, they were that team at times, but even you saw that regress.
Yeah, and the answer would be, I guess, getting turnovers, which they have done that fairly well, but at the cost of what defensively with the fouls and the easy walking to the basket and all that stuff. Yeah, I mean, I side more with James here. Like, I agree that is what their strength is when it comes to just the talent they have on the roster, but the cohesion of it makes no sense. Like it's basic to point to in the modern NBA, but it really is just horrible spacing. Like, teams are going to pack the paint nonstop against these guys. And why would you not? Again, Dennis cannot get to the basket. He's got to the basket, and take sample size for what you will. He's gotten to the basket some of the least that he has throughout his entire career. And it feels like when he does get there, he's kind of chucking up some crazy stuff sometimes, because those are typically his looks, and he's trying to get back to them a little bit and put some pressure around the rim, but they can't create it. Like, I thought some of the best lineups, as crazy as this sounds, just given the current lack of depth that they have at this position, is Zach at the 4. Like, when Zach is playing alongside Keon Ellis and Malik Monk, and I think there was a lineup with Domas and Dennis in there at the time, it's like, okay, now you see the cohesion, at least on the offensive end, a little bit, right? Defensively, don't get me wrong, that's a disaster. But I think that's how you start to see the offense make sense, is, hey, let's get 3 knockdown shooters in the lineup. Like, I do think that Keon should be playing more. Sometimes towards the end of last game, you saw Dennis Schroeder get replaced by Malik Monk down the stretch. And I thought that was a good move, that they need more spacing out there. And I think there's times that I get you need the rebounding of Russell Westbrook, and he really does defend 4s out there for you. It's the best thing that you got with that right now. But I'm sorry, I'm leaning into that offensive strength a little bit, and I'm putting Keon and Malik in those closing lineups. Like you need this spacing, and I get that you're losing out in these other areas, but you're already losing there. So I think there are certain lineups that you could see the spacing get a little bit better, but you're losing out on a lot of the things that you want to be your strengths. They just have been weaknesses up to this point already.
Yeah, it's tough. It's a mess. And again, I would like to tell you, like, there's one thing that can fix it, like, or that one person's to blame. But I don't feel that way. I don't feel like this is Doug Christie and Bobby Jackson and uh, Mike Woodson and Mike Miller are doing a horrible job. They're just letting their team down. I don't believe that. I also think that the players are trying to do what they think is right. And that's not always right. They need to do what the coach is asking them to do. They need to play better team basketball. And, again, I don't blame Scott Perry for the roster. He tried to flip the roster. There was no way to flip this specific roster this summer. Now, maybe in December you can, maybe in January you can, maybe in February you can, maybe in June or July you can. But for right now, I don't think there's a way to change this roster enough to make it work. And your only hope is that Neat Clifford comes back and is impactful, and that Keegan Murray comes back as impactful, and they're able to help you space the floor, like what Brendan's saying. Outside of that, I don't know where the exit is for this, because the first 19 games of this schedule were brutal, and going 1-4 against 4 of the easier games on the schedule in the first 20 is a disaster.
Well, I think the silver lining there, to me, and it's just the way I look at it, is you have a collection of games right now, all of which felt like, I know Doug made the comment at the time that they should be 4-0, and it kind of gets laughed at, and I get why they would laugh at that, but to be honest with you, I see the point. What he's saying is each one of those games was theirs to be closed out. They just didn't close it out. Those 3 games that they had lost in that mix.
They were a team that was trying to figure out how to win.
Right.
Go ahead.
And so from that standpoint, like, even struggling with so many of the things that we've outlined, they've had opportunities to win. I think last night's game against Chicago, that one comes down to a third quarter, a brutal third quarter stretch. Very similar to the way they closed out against OKC. Going on this scoring drought and then an 11-0 run that puts you away. That same game, by the way, 24 missed layups, misses around the basket from a dunker spot, like unable, just having an inability to finish, and you still pretty much have a chance to win that game. The Lakers game, obviously, what happens there? Utah, you beat them, but it takes the last second shot. Phoenix, you had a 20-point lead, you blew that. So, like, you have all these things that have gone well for you. They've lost those games. Very easily, this could be a different record without it taking a whole hell of a lot. And what did I tell you guys? Like, a lot has to go right with the way this team is constructed for this team to win games. And I think, you can already point to the one guy that they can't lose, which is Keegan Murray. You're trying to make, substitutions for that. The problem is people get bogged down with what's on the horizon. As I mentioned earlier, going into Milwaukee, you're going into these places that are, stout opposition. You have to find the ways to win those games. Maybe it takes those type of moments to bring the best out of what this team is. Certainly seen that with the Oklahoma City Thunder. You're going to see them twice more in a very small stretch. I'd argue that's probably the best time to face the defending champs, as opposed to maybe later on, because they are missing guys like Jalen Williams. Chet Holmgren obviously missed the other night. But to a larger point, maybe it's a team that rises to the level of their opposition. I don't know. I feel like they can easily turn this around, but continue on with the way they're playing, but they have to show force defensively. And I think, honestly, we're talking about all what this team is and what they aren't. We kind of know those things already. To me, it simply comes down to, if I had to pick one overarching theme outside of the roster construction, which is, to me, the biggest thing right now, I simply think it comes down to coaching, and I think they're being outcoached.
Brendan?
Yeah, I mean,
hang on. Let me follow it. How? I mean, I get. I'm not saying that Doug Christie's done a perfect job here, but how is it on him that, again, you talked about the 24 misses at the basket? Because
No, not that. I
yeah,
think the things that have cost them games are these prolonged stretches with no timeouts, running with a rotation too long, searching for energy. I'm, by the way, completely fine with him having the different starting lineups. He's looking at matchups. He's trying to make it work without Keegan Murray. I'll give him a pass on that. He went with the same starting rotations for the back to back. Of course you would. You didn't have a practice or really a shoot around in between. That makes total sense to me. But to me, the thing that just sticks out, and to me, the difference in the games that I feel that they could have had a different result are these long stretches, these runs that they're unable to hit back with. And to me, that just comes down to coaching. Like you have to be more recognizable of those moments in the moment that they're happening, and not leave it up to the players to just figure it out. Now, again, the pushback is, if you're going to do it, maybe it's the early portion of the season. Let these guys figure it out. But you've got to beat up Domantas Sabonis out there. We haven't even gotten into that. I mean, he's basically kind of playing on one leg a little bit. And I think he came back a little too early. I think he came back because they simply needed him. But to me, a lot of these things are correctable with coaching. And again, the 94 feet thing, there's so many things that just don't play to what I think that might have a better result. And it to me, it's just, you have to figure out what your rotations are. I think you have to respond quickly, and maybe you have to do hockey substitutions, anything to just keep it quick. You have a lot of old players on this team, and I don't think the correct answer is running them into the ground for 38, 35 minutes. Go a little deeper. Just mix it up a little bit more.
I think Doug has even been a little self-reflective in some of those things that you've talked about, or that you just laid out there in his post games. But like, I think of the Utah game, I believe it was. It could have been the Lakers, where there was a point where there's like 6-7 minutes left in that game, and you look out on the floor and you're like, how is this the lineup right now? You know, and I think just managing the timings of all those rotations. But a couple of the, I guess, positives on the other end is, I do like the 9-man rotation that it seemed to come down to these last two games. I know Devin Carter can be a little bit volatile at times, but it felt like every single time Devin was thrown out there, maybe prior to that game in Chicago, he was like looking over his shoulder and honestly just doing way too much out there. And it felt like he very much had this, hey, I need to prove it right now, and then was falling into that. And so I think we just haven't seen what Devin brings to this team. So I like at least getting that. Try it out a little bit, see what you have here. Maybe it just adds to my viewing experience more than anything, because it's some sense of, hey, what could this guy be to watch for? But I do like that he's kind of got down this 9-man rotation, just basing off the last two games. It was consistent with those 9, with the bench pieces being 3 guards in Malik Monk, Keon Ellis, Devin Carter, and then Drew Eubanks playing just the non-Sabonis minutes. And the other thing, and maybe this is more of a credit to Bobby Jackson, I'm not really sure, is I thought the zone idea that they had has worked fairly well. The zone worked pretty well in OKC. It threw them off. I think they've also done a good job of mixing in different types of zone looks. And then in Chicago, like, they come out of a timeout, are playing zone, next possession they're playing man, and kind of just trying to junk up the game a little bit, because as we've talked about, you're not a good defense. So try to just throw off the other team in some ways as well. It feels like they go to that zone specifically every time Eubanks comes into the game, and it prevents him from being so much involved in pick and rolls, which makes sense. But switched up some things. And, you know, I agree with a lot of your criticisms about how it's been handled so far. But just on the other side also, you know, this is year one for Doug, and I think it's to be expected, and some things that I'm sure he's noticed himself and could get worked out over time here.
Yeah, and like, I don't think he's done a perfect job at all. I don't. But I look at the roster and I just like, man, you are starting Russell effing Westbrook at power forward. Like, that is a fatal flaw. That is like a fireable offense for a front office to have that be one of the options, or one of the few options that you have. So, like, I mean, and when the alternative is Dario Saric or Isaac Jones, like, I don't know what you're supposed to do. You're going into every single game undermanned, undersized, tiny, like, with no natural shot blocker, with no natural defender in your starting lineup. Like, and it's not because you're choosing a starting lineup with no defensive players. You only have one other defensive player. You only have one defensive player that's healthy right now. Is Keon Ellis. Like, and then you put Drew Eubanks in the
Well,
game,
and
and
even he's banged up, by the way. I
well,
mean,
he's banged up, and he's also playing like a dude who's really, really concerned about his contract extension or his restricted free
or the lack
agency,
thereof.
his unrestricted free agency at the end of the year. I mean, he's trying to score. That's what he's trying to do. I mean, he's trying his best to make himself as expensive a player as he can, and that's fine. But it's also why he's hyped up and fouling out of games and picking up silly fouls here and there. Like I just don't know what you're supposed to. Again, you bring in Drew Eubanks, and I swear he's got probably like 8 blocks on the season. How many of them are end up in the first row or second row? Like that doesn't
Well,
help anybody,
how many
bro.
of them are also at the like they're never at the rim. They're never like they're weak side so often. Like they're a little bit of a hollow stat is what I think you're getting at.
It's a horrible hollow stat.
Yeah.
Every single time he blocks somebody, the other team retains possession. And it's just like, what are we doing? Like, that's what I feel like there's so many people here on this team. And I don't think it's Drew Eubanks specifically that's like some sort of problem. I think it's a bunch of problems. Like, there are no natural roles. Nobody's playing, to another player's strength. And you're trying to integrate guys into the lineup that number one, why you didn't sign somebody all the way through training camp and you signed them right at the end of the training camp window. I have no idea. Right at the end of preseason, like a couple of days before the season starts. I don't get it. Like that doesn't make any sense at all. And then again, when you lose Domantas Sabonis and for game 1 and then game 2 and game 3, he looks like he's never played with his team at all before. Finally started to look a little bit more like himself in the last 2 games, even though the OKC game he couldn't buy a bucket. Like this team has some issues that they got to figure out, but I don't know what the offense is. I don't know what it is they're doing at all. It's not read and react because I don't see any back cuts. I don't see anybody like getting wide open looks. Like the assists, even the assist numbers that we do see, I like a lot of times are highly questionable. Like if I told you that Dennis Schroeder had 7 first half assists last night, do you remember one of them?
Yeah, but
First half
Maybe.
was solid last night offensively, but
Okay, but what about the game before where he had 12 assists? Do you remember any of the assists?
yeah, but they're to your point. I mean, they're a little Rajon Rondo-esque, like where it's kind of more of a hunting as opposed to worrying about just moving the ball and perhaps having hockey assists.
Yeah.
And I think so many of them are very methodical and very half court based. And maybe that's a hey, Schroeder sent me the ball, I need to shoot this. It just doesn't have a lot of flow, and what's crazy is where it does have its most flow is in a half court set, and to me that's a little alarming because they don't have fast breaks, they don't push very often, and when they do, they're unable to sustain it. So yeah,
Well,
I
again,
mean,
it's tough
when
to
I
have fast breaks when you can't get a rebound.
can't get a rebound, and the point is when it comes to when I said on coaching, like it sounds like I'm just absolutely crushing Doug. It's not that. Like I also feel like he's searching. Like I think he battles trying to be a player's coach and trying to do what he thinks is right for the team. And I think there's a push and pull there, especially when you're only 5 games into the season, especially when you're surrounded by so many guys that have had a lot of experience in this league. But he's going to have to disrupt it because it's not harmonious. It's not something that's leading to success. And whether he feels that he's coaching it the way he wants to right now, clearly there's things that have just blown up in his face, and they have to make adjustments. But I don't think it's as far off as so many people think. Even though the roster is what it is, like I do think there's a way to get value and success out of this team. I'm not saying that they're a 60 game win team or anything like that, but I think it won't take much for them to be able to turn some of this around in the early going.
Yeah, I mean, all of that's possible. It is, but in order for that to happen, people need to start playing to their own strengths, and they need to start figuring out a pecking order and who does what for this team. Because it does look like there's just way too many like individual ball handler, like ISO creation guys. And they're just doing what they do. And you can't really fault them for doing what they do because that's what they've been their entire career. When your starting lineup has like I did the math, 70 years of NBA experience and you're not winning and you're not looking like a team that knows what the hell they're doing at all, that's a bit alarming. And especially you talk about like the coaching thing, right? You give up a 9-0 run to end the first half against Chicago. That's unacceptable, right? You go to halftime and you have conversations and you try to work some of that stuff out. They came out and let the Bulls go on an 11-2 run out of the half. And then it was at that point, it's it's 20-2 run, or it might have even been a 12-2 run. So it was like 21-2 run overall, and you're done. The game's over. I mean, at that point, especially if you're a team who can't play defense and who can't realistically hit the three at the highest percentage. The fact that they were able to hit it for the first 4 games and were like 40%, 41%, like right at the top of the league, that wasn't sustainable. You knew that wasn't. So, again, Brenden, the 3-point percentages as well as anyone. Like that's not sustainable. Like guys hitting, again, Malik Monk's a good 3-point shooter, but he's not going to shoot 68% on the season. And once that cools off, once Russell Westbrook cools off, once Dennis Schroeder cools off, now what are you? And that's where I think like the reality hit against the Bulls. It's like, oh, that's not good.
Well,
yeah.
Go ahead.
I mean, yeah, they don't have shooters like that. And there's going to be some guys that I think they can lean towards more that will help that. And funny part is, or I guess maybe not so funny with their reality, is that Keegan solves a lot of these things and certainly helps, maybe not solves, but helps shore up a lot of these things. Neek, probably you would say the same thing. But I just don't see very often there's just not much cohesion to this group. Kind of same thing that I had said before. And I was going to go somewhere else and it totally left my mind there as I was talking. But yeah, I mean, I don't think that there is a chemistry and a way that this group all plays together. I think that when you saw Malik Monk check into the game is where it really like changed a little bit last night, right? Is that they could not hit a 3 to start that game. And then Malik Monk comes in and instantly hits, for what it's worth, a pretty tough catch and shoot 3 deep beyond the top of the break there. And then next possession, he gets into a pick and roll with Domantas Sabonis, drops off that pocket pass, and Domas finishes at the rim. And it's like, okay, there's a little bit of the rhythm coming back here. And specifically Malik being able to play with Domas. I'm sure we're going to get to him. His numbers haven't been great to start the year, hamstring, what you will. But I don't think they're doing him any favors in setting him up like you saw De'Aaron do previously. Malik does so well. There's not that chemistry with Dennis. When it comes to Zach uses Domas more in a, hey, you're my bailout pass here, and then I'm going to go get that ball right back from you, which helps Zach, but it doesn't really help Domas get to his. And so, that's a way they could attempt to optimize his play a little bit more. He's not shooting the 3 ball well at all. I think he's made 1 all year long. They don't look very pretty. They didn't look pretty in preseason. So I'm not really betting on that. You got to get him around the basket a little bit more. You got to get the ball in his hands more so these back cuts can go, because after the initial action is over, there's a lot of standing around. And then what's DeMar DeRozan or Russell Westbrook or Dennis Schroeder going to do when there's 7 seconds left on the clock and like, well, ball's in my hand, I guess I'm gonna go dribble and do a biddy. Like, that's just what's going to happen when those guys got the ball in their hands. So I think you see Malik play to that system a little bit more, but they need to be able to lean into that more often.
And there's nothing wrong with that, especially when what your clock and your personnel is. I think what the thing that kills them, and I hate to go back to these runs, but James, that run you're talking about, you don't have to blow a timeout. You can simply make a foul, just foul somebody, stop the game, lay some wood on somebody, make a foul, come over, talk to your team, and then try to the worst thing you can do is combat a big moment from the other team, come back and quick shoot the basketball, hero shot, whatever. And you're just absolutely running nothing. And then that might as well be a turnover and it leads to another 3 on the other end. That to me is where they don't recognize time and place as off in the moment quickly enough. And I think that's what's really hurting this team. And we've seen it pretty much in every single one of these games. And you could even go back into the preseason, but it didn't matter in the preseason. Now it matters. So these are things where they just have to read and react a lot better.
Or just get to the line yourself. They are 28th in free throw attempts, and you have DeMar DeRozan on your team. Dennis is good at that. Domas can be physical around the basket. Like, you think Zach should be able to get to the line more than he has. Like there's other ways to do it for sure.
Well, and in Schroeder's case, James, sorry, like he won't. He doesn't want to get in the paint because he's got no help. There's no other man with size out there to be able to take some of that attention away from him. So him getting to the bucket is really challenging for him right now.
Yeah. And I'd point this out too. If you guys take a step back and you look at, like, every single player uses Domas in a different way. And, Domas is having to, like, rediscover himself with every single player. Like, again, you can do the DHO game with Zach LaVine. He figured it out. It didn't work that well last season at the end of the year, but he's played with Domas now enough that he knows how to use him. You can't do that with Dennis. Dennis wants a ball in his hands. He doesn't want a DHO. He wants to do a true pick and roll. So you're going back and forth between each of these individual players. And as Domas is stepping out, to go set a screen, he's trying to figure out who it is that he's playing with, right? And that's just like a major, major issue for this team. Like it's very I personally think their pathway forward is to play through Domas like they have in the last 2 games. Has it always worked? It doesn't always work, especially if he's missing shots. But it's how your offense actually has some sort of flow and continuity. And then they scrap everything in the second half and go away from it. They don't do it at all. And you're like, man, did you not notice that you guys had a lead? That things were working and things, like, everything was happening the right way. And then all of a sudden it's not. So there's like a real strange recognition issue with this team that I just don't get. And, again, Schroeder had the turnover problems like the first couple of games where he's turning the ball over 4 times a quarter or 4 times in the first quarter. And then Zach LaVine had the same thing the other night where he was trying to find Domas in the pick and roll and kept throwing horrific passes. They got picked one after another. He had 4 first quarter turnovers. So it does just feel like there is no continuity. There is no flow to what they're doing yet. And I think that some of that will get better as they spend more time together. The defensive side of the ball, I don't know if that's the case. I don't know how they continue to not look like they did last night. Again, the game against Oklahoma City, yeah, they fought. They held their line, but watching, layup lines, it was an embarrassment. Like, I don't know how many points in the paint. I think they had 36 points in the paint, like in the third quarter. Like that's not acceptable. Even if it's 30 or 25, that's not acceptable. You're just giving the team a wide open, like layup again and again. And it's literally how they ended up losing the OKC game. It started with the AJ Mitchell back-to-back drives past Keon Ellis and no one behind Keon Ellis. 0. And I get it, you're running some sort of zone, but I've never seen a zone that doesn't have anyone in the key. Because that's not a zone that typically works. If you don't have anyone in the key at all, I don't know what the plan
should have a
is.
2-3-2, right? Like it was like 2. I don't know, one
It was
one
like
up top, and it was 4 like a white line defense.
I'm like shaking my head, like, what is happening? Like, it's one thing. Keon made a couple of horrific plays to let the guy by. I mean, trying to, like, get the back tap and stuff. Like, come on, man. Just stay in front of your man. It's AJ Mitchell. Stay in front of him. But then to have no one behind him was just like, oh my gosh, like, what exactly in crunch time? Like, what is going on? So yeah, lots to clean up. What do you guys get? Is there anyone individually that's standing out to you that you're like, okay, despite all of the despair and the dark cloud hanging over this team, who is it that you think is stood out? Brenden, you brought up Devin Carter. I thought yesterday Devin Carter's minutes, it just looked like he was keeping it simple. The old KISS thing, keep it simple, stupid. It looked like he was not trying too hard to do anything. And that's after literally some ridiculously over trying moments where, like the offensive foul he had was that against the Lakers, where he just tried to run somebody over. Like, he's made some good plays and some bad plays. You're muted. But go ahead.
Yeah, in OKC, he tried to dribble into 3 people and then just kind of threw it to all of them.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I think that there's definitely still some learning moments, but I just like that Devin is getting some opportunity. He played less than 400 minutes in his rookie season. Like, this is still a lottery pick. I think there was a reason he was drafted where he was selected. It doesn't look great up to this point, but I like seeing what you have, and thought yesterday was a little bit better. Just the ability to put the ball on the deck and hit the paint, make that extra read. I think he kicked out to Malik for 3 once. That looked nice. He does help on the glass. He's a really good rebounder for his size. Like, he was averaging more rebounds in college per game than Donovan Clingan out there. He's a good rebounder, can help in that way. But that's more of like, I think it's interesting to see what he can bring rather than necessarily he's great right now. The two that came to mind when you asked was really Zach LaVine and then probably Malik Monk. Zach, just an efficient bucket like he always is. And I think you're continuing to see that. The 3-point percentage, I'm curious if it'll be around that 40% mark this year, because the Kings just need him to shoot the crap out of the ball from 3. Like I mentioned, he's the only guy in the starting lineup that can shoot 3s. So he needs to get him up. And so I wonder if he'll be around the 50, 40, 90, but Sean's 30 per game's looking pretty good right now. And he's an absolute bucket, can get to it whenever he wants. I think his step back is disgusting, and he's got a great center of balance on it. Like, he looks amazing. And then Malik, like I mentioned earlier, I think Malik and Domas running their 2-man game is the closest thing you see to an actual chemistry out there on the floor for the most part. Like, that's where you start to see them click and be able to benefit one another. Malik's scoring fits off the bench have just really brought energy to that group in a way that I think it's needed. And then I'd probably shout out Keon a little bit in there as well. There are moments for sure where he's doing too much offensively, as you mentioned, but I just think that you need shooting on this team. Keon does that really, really well. I think the shot looks even better this year, or maybe it's just another level of confidence, but he is letting that thing fly, and I think it looks good. And defensively, you struggle in a lot of ways, but I think that when you're playing small, you need to force turnovers. That's what Keon does out there. He's as handsy as it gets defensively. Sometimes that's going to get him in foul trouble. But to me, I think Keon plays into, he's one of the few guys that fits the strengths that you're trying to do on this team. So I probably would lean into playing him and Malik more. And then, Zach's been a bucket.
Sean?
I mean, I can echo all that. I think you nailed it in terms of the guys who've impressed. I think the only thing I'd push back with Zach is I need him to look. He's been fabulous on the offensive end. There's 2 things that just stick out like a sore thumb to me. I don't feel he's aggressive enough throughout the game. I feel like he coasts, and I feel like a lot of time the Chicago game was the number he finished at was, I mean, they were a little hollow. I needed a little bit more in the third quarter. I think he just tends to disappear. I don't know if it's a disinterest. I don't know if Doug is kind of including him a little bit in that regard. I think he becomes a little too passive at times. Let that thing fly. Nobody else should be taking shots from you. Like, you are the star player on this team. You should have a multitude of shots. And I'm not usually the guy that says go out there and chuck. Zach LaVine, go out there and chuck. Get to the free throw line even if you can. Because this team needs free throw shooting in its worst way. Maybe that'll take a little pressure off of DeMar DeRozan, because he's such a wizard at being able to do that. And then the other thing I would say, this goes to the disinterest. Too often I see him defensively just kind of give up on a play. He just looks like there's a disinterest at times, or he just gets confused by what's going on, and it's already beaten. And to his credit, though, more times than not, he wants to get back real quickly offensively, maybe get it back. But I've seen a few things that have popped up where he might get into the official and it completely takes him out of the play altogether. And his guy goes all the way down there and has an uncontested layup. So that's been a little worrisome, but I would like him to be a little bit more aggressive. And then with Malik plays so many things on roles on this team. He has minutes one night. I think he almost played 30 minutes last night in Chicago. You have another game where he's almost around 10. I think he has to be as much of a starter minutes on this team as possible. I just think he's so much impactful for both sides of the ball. I know he's not a great defender, but he's certainly willing. He's not fouling. He's only had one game. I think he's been up to 4 fouls. Last night he didn't have any fouls at all. and I think he helps. I know he can be mistake prone at times, but I feel like he can help so much of what they want to do offensively. Hopefully, get Domas in more of a flow, kind of be that point guard option at times with a team that is really struggling for playmaking options. And I just don't think he hurts you too much defensively. I think he has a knowledge of what they're trying to run, what the spacing should look like. He's always in guys' ears telling them where they should be. And for a guy who has that much feel on the ball, I think he's been outstanding. Would like to see much more Malik Monk.
The only other things I'll add real quick, or one thing that, to your point on Zach, that he could do better is I think rebounding the ball. He's never been a good rebounder.
Never been that.
He never has been, but like it feels like he should be, and he's leaking out in transition for sure. That is, and it makes sense. That guy's a freaking human highlight reel in transition. But with the bounce that he has, like help out on the glass a little bit more. I think just committing to that would help this team a little bit.
Yeah, I'm going to point out the one other thing too, because I do think Levine and his scoring and Monk and his energy and scoring have stood out. I think both of them have been incredibly tremendous. And what I'm about to bring up, it might be a part of a bigger issue, and it's that those are your only two scorers. I mean, they're your only two shooters. But I want to point out that like Zach LaVine is usually a good assist man. He's not a great assist man, but for his career, he's at 4.1 per game. Last year with the Kings, he was at 3.9 per game. He was at 3.8 when he got to Sacramento last year. The year before, the 23-24 season, he averaged 4.2 assists. He's at 1.6 right now. And that can't be sustainable. And on top of that, Monk is doing the same thing. So Monk is a guy who averaged 5.6 last year. He's at 2.4 this year. And then I'll add in Sabonis, who's at 3.3 assists per game this year, where what last year is at 6.2, something like that. So just between those three guys, you're down like 8 to 10 assists a game. And that's just not going to be how this team can win. I don't, again, I have a much, the isolation basketball is just, first of all, it's dreadful to watch. But secondly, it's just not that effective for a full 48 minutes. It's great if your one-on-one guy is Shai Gilgeous-Alexander, or if they're going to let, Austin Reeves foul grift his way to an NBA scoring title. Okay. That's one thing. But like outside of that, like there, every team has ISO ball players. Everybody has players that, in the final 8 seconds of the shot clock, they go. But this just feels like it's your turn, my turn, your turn, my turn, his turn, your turn, my turn, like all the entire game. And what they're not doing is they're not playing team basketball, and it's not sustainable team basketball. So like, I agree that those guys have been like spectacular, but I also need them to actually do the other parts of the game that actually matter, because Zach LaVine is looking like a 29 1-1 guy half the time, and Monk is doing the same thing. And it's like, what makes Monk so good is his ability to score off the bounce, shoot the three ball, but also set his teammates up getting to the rim for easy buckets. And that's just not happening at all. And maybe that's because part of the time he's playing with Drew Eubanks, part of the time he's playing with Dylan Cardwell, neither of which are serviceable NBA centers, just straight up. Like, there's a reason Drew Eubanks has been the third center on most teams he's been on. And you're seeing that right now. And Cardwell is trying to learn the game, but, he's an undrafted free agent two-way player that played the final 5 minutes of the opening game of the season. Like, that's not typical. And not only is it not typical, but that's not like winning basketball. And that's not because Dylan Cardwell is doing something wrong, but like when Doug Christie feels like that's his best option, that's not on Doug. That's on somebody else. That's on the roster construction issue. So I think it's going to be a weird season. All right. Do we have time? Let's see. We don't need to do the business of basketball. We've been pretty negative today. the business of basketball. There we go.
Cadence down.
I guess, like, what is the light at the end of the tunnel? How about that? Like here. No, I think it, like, really, if there's something that you want to point to that you think is positive, that's like, hey, they're eventually Nick Clifford and Keegan Murray are gonna play. That's the light.
And it's only 5 games.
Well,
Like,
we're
that's your
also we're
light.
5 games into a 12 to 20 game absence from Keegan, so he'll be back soon, ish.
Well,
But
yeah,
what's
but I
the
mean,
light?
I feel like, it's very possible that he could be back in the next 6 games, or after the next 6 games, possibly. At minimum, he was going to miss 10. So
Ooh,
yeah,
I had him at 12 at a minimum.
well, I think also, getting any kind of help, getting this team healthy, hopefully avoiding the injury bug. Obviously, I think a lot of things are correctable from what we've kind of harped on, but again, they've been in games, they've been able to have opportunities to win, they just haven't. So that to me is, I think, the biggest silver lining for me. I've mentioned that earlier. I also think, like, again, I don't think there's much rotationally that they can do, other than maybe have quicker substitutions. Maybe it's a more frequent, trying to keep maybe some of the minutes down a little bit. We'll also try to help a little bit from some of the hero ball that they've been known to play at times. But the only one guy that's not playing as much that has really kind of flustered me is Isaac Jones. Keon Ellis, I realize that this is a guard heavy team, and Doug has to figure out a way to keep him on the floor and get him minutes. 13 is far too short, and I know we saw that in one of these games. So I think they've done better at trying to find opportunities for Keegan all the while he's dealing with a shoulder injury. But just the one that just keeps puzzling me, especially given the lack of size, is Isaac Jones. I don't know why that is. Curious if you guys feel similar.
That's, yeah, you unlocked the take. I forgot I was supposed to get off here. Isaac Jones should be the backup 5. Like, Drew Eubanks is not cutting it. I know that they moved Isaac to the 4, and I'm sure he put a lot of work into playing that position, being more spaced out this year. His great looks in summer league for what it's will, and last season, like, he looked best at the 5. And I think that you could continue to roll with that. He also, maybe that spacing the floor is real, and he's a 5 that can also space the floor a little bit, but he certainly can roll to the basket and finish around the rim, help you play with pace in transition. And I don't imagine it'd be that much worse defensively than what you've seen with Drew Eubanks. I think he should be out there for sure. And as far as light at the end of the tunnel, this is where, the hashtags come out of lose for booze. Like, they are in Duke and they are at BYU. Hashtag ask for AJ. Like, I am all AJ DeBonsa. Let's get it. Let's get here. I think this is maybe they're going to end up with a high draft pick. Maybe that I'm loving. I'm talking about this 5 games into the season. I just know
Right.
it boils Sean right now. Maybe the last month when they play a bunch of booty teams, they're going to ruin their record. They're going to be an 8th, 9th pick. We'll see how the lottery goes. But hey, from a viewer standpoint, I am already like, hey, at least I'm going to get to watch some film with college guys this year. Maybe get a little excited there.
You can do that anyway.
Where I'm at. Yeah, but with more passion.
By the way,
do it with his chest.
By the way, just kind of closing I don't know, James, if you agree with the Isaac Jump, but I'd like to see him play with Domas also. Like, it's not like where I feel he has to be Domas on, off, Isaac on. Like, I think they're capable of playing with each other. Like, I really do. But anyway, go ahead.
Okay, I have a couple of things on this. Number one, I think Doug Christie's done the right thing the last 2 games where he's cut his rotation down to 8.5 players. Like, this team does not look like they have any chemistry at all. And the smaller the group, the easier it is to build chemistry. And then you can start adding in other pieces. I thought Drew Eubanks was going to play early in the season no matter what, whether it's Reynaud or it's Isaac Jones or it's Dylan Cardwell, whoever it is. They will eventually play and take him out of the rotation. At least that's what I think will happen. But I'd also like to point out that for whatever reason, when Doug took over the team last year, he showed no faith in Isaac Jones at all and did not play him. Right. And so I don't know that that's going to be a viable option. And it's not like Isaac Jones has stood out as somebody who's doing the right things and playing the right way. And, you can't keep him off the court. He's been a problem just like everybody else. Like when he gets out there and he's getting minutes, he's doing a little bit of what we saw from Devin Carter in his first minutes, where it's like, ew, like that's not going to cut it. He even got a start and it was over so quickly, but it was because he wasn't like figuring it out. So I think that there's a possibility that Isaac Jones can be one of those guys that steps in, and he is like one of the few pathways you have to potentially doing something different. But at the same time, if you have a choice between Russell Westbrook or DeMar DeRozan or some other veteran that knows what the hell they're doing, and you're trying to get wins because your record is sinking, you're going to go with veteran players. And, like maybe there's a point where he gets a ton of minutes, but
yeah, I don't know that I would. I can tell you this: there's no effing way I'm starting Russell Westbrook as my starting power forward at all. And I'm all about going small. Trust me. I play to the strength of your team. I'm not saying Russ can't play. I'd probably be playing him 20 minutes a game at least, but I ain't doing that. So
the crazy thing with that too, just so
kind of worked. Yeah.
Well, it kind of worked, but no, the crazy thing is that Russ is playing either the 3 or the 4. I don't know what the hell he's playing because DeMar DeRozan's out there with him, and neither one of them can, are natural forwards at all. But I think the crazy thing is because Russ is playing up front on the front line, Doug is using Devin Carter. That's what's opened the door to Devin Carter playing. He's playing backup point guard minutes, and they're not using Russ as a backup point guard. So when they go away from Schroeder, you would expect that they would bring in a big, move Russell Westbrook to the back into the backcourt, but they're not doing that. And so I think that there is a major chasm of leadership from the guard position at this point. And part of it is that when you go to your second unit, sometimes it's Malik who's running the show, but other times it's guys like Keon who just aren't natural, like setup guys. And you should probably be using Russ where he's best, and that's as your backup point guard. And, again, you can still use him as your starting power forward, but when somebody comes off the court, somebody big has to come on, and you got to let Russ run that second unit for stretches. And the crazy thing is they did do that, I think, in the Lakers game, and then they go away from it. So it's not just like the rotations are different, but where guys are playing on the court is different. And I think it's really difficult for people to kind of figure out where they fit. Let's get to final thoughts really quick. What do we got, Sean? Because I know you got to get out of here.
Go Blue Jays.
Oh yeah.
I am not a Dodgers fan. I'm really enjoying the World Series. But to keep it NBA, I mean, look, I just yeah, I think we've exhausted a lot of this. I think it's fun to talk about, but you've seen a lot of crazy stuff on social media, as you always do. I I would hope that people would kind of keep a level head for at least 20 games. I don't think that that's all that possible at this point. But that's life as a Kings fan. So it's going to be fun to talk about, good and bad, for the next several weeks before we really kind of get a true idea of what this team is. But I think the sarcastic prick in everybody would just say, no, we already know what this team is, and it's not good. And I can understand why someone would think that. I'm not there yet, but also, with hopefully a move or two to come, hopefully you get a little bit more clarity as to what that is. But I think right now you're looking at Doug Christie and Scott Perry being the saviors of this team, because these zebras have their stripes and they don't change. So you have to turn this into more of a team. I think they can hold the wall a little bit in the meantime, try to find something. I think it's, like I said, it doesn't take much to have things turn a little bit around, but I think in the grand scheme of things for this success of the season, you're looking at Doug Christie and Scott Perry and saying, help.
Yeah. Brenden, what do you got for us?
Not as insightful as Sean. Just was going to say that I always appreciate unique moments in Golden One Center at some of these games. And so I just want to shout out Drew Eubanks for allowing me to witness my first wedgie hook shot. a hook shot that wedgied in between the rim and the back of the backboard. Just one of those moments where you're like, I have never seen that before. I don't know about you fellas.
Wasn't it a dunk attempt?
No, it was a hook shot.
If he keeps doing the hook shot, I think that they should hand tasers out to the people under the basket.
Wow.
And if he goes to do the hook shot, you tase his ass. I don't understand what that is, but that's not basketball.
His eyes change. There's a moment where you can tell, oh, Drew's about to shoot it. Like,
oh yeah, you see that, but then he does the spin, reverse pivot spin move.
The footwork's
skyhook.
Great.
You're like,
great.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah, I'm of the opinion that if I ever see, not only would I sign up for the taser, I would not dress him for games. Then, like, if you do it again, you're not dressed for games.
I would agree.
I don't want to see that.
Yeah,
and it's not like it has a high percentage of accuracy. So
I'm gonna get my guys down low at the underneath the basket to get Tase's ass shirts. Yeah. So all right. Final
tough moments from
Dag over in the NBL.
Yeah. Let's see. Final thoughts. Look, I think everybody is kind of all over the board and chaotic and angry and pissed, and the tank crowd is out in full force. The sky is falling. People are everywhere. We see it on social media. I deal with it on the radio. We hear you, we see you, all that stuff. There are 77 games left. Please don't let this ruin the next 6 months of your life. If this is the way it's going and you need to step back and take a breather from watching a game, that's fine. But my goodness, the anxiety that I'm seeing from fans, I don't know what to do. I don't know how to help you. I don't, the light at the end of the tunnel is very, very dim, and you're hoping that they get healthy enough to change some things. But at the same time, like, this is the roster that they have, and there is a possibility that they gel and we see something special. And I guess I'll end with this. Beam Team 1 started the season 0-4, and actually had the same exact record after 5 games that this team does. So all things are possible, but it doesn't help when Kevin Huerter's hitting 18 points on you the night before. So, all right, that's going to do it for this edition of the Kings Beat podcast. No live show this week, but thanks for everybody who tuned in. Make sure to give us a thumbs up, subscribe to the channel, ratings and reviews wherever you listen to your podcasts, all of that stuff. Jump on board with thekingsbeat.com. What's up? Someone going to say something?
We're done for the week. We're not doing another one this week. This is it.
We might do another one this week, but it is Thursday, Sean.
Yeah, it is.
It's Thursday. I don't know. We could do one after the Bucks game, but probably not. I'm going to Truckee for the weekend. No. Yeah. So
look at you.
Yeah,
so nothing on the weekend. Okay.
Well, maybe I might be back on Sunday afternoon. Maybe we could do a Sunday pod. We'll see. Okay. All right. So for KCRA 3, Sean Cunningham and Brenden Nunes from the Kings Pulse podcast.
Wow.
I am James Ham, Kings Insider for ESPN 3020 The Kings Beat. Good to see you.